How's it going, everybody, and welcome to another episode in the world of BruhCity. Today, I'm going to be showing you guys the history of Terran, which is a nation within the greater BruhCity world. So, let's get started. Starting out, we have to say, where did Terran really originate from? And to do that, we have to go back to spawn. So, that's where we're at right now. This is where you would spawn at in my world if you were to spawn here. We have a beautiful sign saying welcome. There's a book. There's locations. At least on the sign it says which way to go. And over here is the Terran Republic, way out that way. But how did it get there, you might be asking? It started with this railroad. So the railroad was constructed in the early time of the world. The railroad went all the way across the ocean to both sides. This way, going all the way through the major cities. It went all the way through here, down through here. Parts of it I left just for historic reasons. I try to leave some stuff that I build. Whenever I tear something down, I try to leave some remnant so you at least know that something existed at one point. So I tried to do that with the railroad. I tried to keep it as alive as possible. So it goes all the way to Cod Kingdom, which is way out there. But the other direction is what went to Terran, and Terran is the city of the north. Not a whole lot of the railroad up north really remains, because a lot of this I tore out. But basically it follows the line I'm kind of going down. It used to run all the way through all of this. And it ran all the way to the mountain range up north. And I left part of it, so part of it actually is still here. This is the original railroad that went all the way across the world. And this is the original blast site for the cavern that goes all the way through the mountain. This was all that was originally here at the start. It was originally called the Polar Tunnel when I constructed it because it's in the north, but eventually it renamed to the Tempest Cave, the Tempest Cave, when they took over. Now, originally, Terran had nothing here. This was just a blank mountain range. There was really nothing here except for a little bit of roads. This cave was here. That was really about it. There really was not a whole lot going on up north until Mushroom Friend and his presidency. So Mushroom Friend, obviously Mushroom Friend constructed a great monument over here. He constructed his face and Raider Knight's face, the two presidents at the time, and it was obviously bombed by the Bloom Cow Federation. And you might be wondering, who is the Bloom Cow Federation? It was bombed again also. But who is the Bloom Cow Federation? This is the cannon that was fired at the monument, but basically the Bloom Cow Federation is a political party in BruhCity, but it started out as basically an open rebellion because Poppy was exiled. Poppy is the daughter of Mushroom Friend and was exiled out of the country, was basically going to be killed, but ran away to the northern region because Poppy felt that it would be safer up north. So Poppy escaped out here. You can still see the original signs disbanded after Poppy's return to BruhCity, and Poppy would later become the president of BruhCity, but during that early era, it was the Bloom Cow Federation. After Poppy left this region, some of the people who were up here stayed because the rebellion was growing as things went on. A lot of people were fleeing from Mushroom Friend's BruhCity Republic because it was so corrupt and people were getting killed and put in prison. And Mushroom Friend was basically a dictator. So a lot of people fled up north with Poppy in this federation that once existed, but the people who didn't return after Mushroom Friend died decided to form their own country under Tempest, which is a fox. Tempest the First was the first leader of Terran and basically lived in King's Rock, which is a little monument in the mountain. And this was where they would give speeches at, was the Rock of the First Order. This is where a lot of the speeches would be held at, is in this little area. There was a little table. There was skull and crossbones, and This is where the Terran Republic really began. And they were working in the cavern. They were trying to light it up. They were trying to make things fancy down here. And they were trying to build up an economy. So the first thing they did was they summoned the Wither because they were getting into like all this cult stuff or whatever. So they summoned the Wither, and this is basically the life's work of Tempest the First, was building this beacon. So that was the first thing they did, was kind of build up a beacon. They attacked, well, they were building oil too. They had an oil refinery down here in the ocean. It got bombed though. After they attacked the monument, Gageland went in and bombed it, and it made a giant mess that still hasn't been cleaned up to this day. So that was kind of the early era of this civilization. They also had a little bit of an old town over here as well. They put a tunnel through this mountain. A lot of the early business in Terran was oil and drugs. That was the main business revenue in this city. So when you went into places, that's really what you could find. This was a fancy hotel back in the day. The only hotel in Terran. Their school, still basically the same. It's kind of a decaying mess. A lot of the old town in Terran remains mostly untouched. They had a gun store. And then this is where Tempest the First would usually hang out at, was the drug, I don't even know how you would say it. This is, yeah, Tempest the First would mainly hang out in the narcotic production region. This was basically the Capitol building in the early era of Terran. It didn't really have a whole lot going for it. It was a small town, not a lot of business, but things would change as Terran was to gain a new member of its society. After the collapse of the United Kingdom from the Gageland Republic, the leader of the United Kingdom would flee north as well. Douglas was his name, and he would flee up north. And with him, he would bring the religion of Islam. Islam. This is where things would change for Terran, and this is where they would build this. They would also build a giant tower. This would be known as the Tempest Tower. Now it's referred to as the Old Town Tower. But this was the tallest building built in the city under Tempest. And he also built this small residential area. During Tempest's reign, he also launched a massive bomb in the center of the forest, which would later become a crater and a pond. He would not build, well, I think he did build this little nature trail. He didn't do a whole lot after that, though. He kind of died. But he built this nature trail. He was responsible for building these giant kind of like caverns into the mountain where the tunnels would go through. He'd build a little bit of a housing area over here, and Tempest would die. So that was kind of his legacy. He built a lot of the old city, and now Tempest the Second is the leader of Terran. The first thing Tempest the Second would do is build Terran Tower, which would become the tallest building in the entire city and the 8th tallest structure in the world upon its completion when it was originally built. This would serve as the Capitol building for a short time. They've just built a new Capitol building, but this was the Capitol building for a short period of time. A lot of the other stuff in the city is relatively new, so I'm kind of skim over it. But this was basically a podium where they're going to give speeches at. So Tempest the Second, he stands here, he gives his great speeches to the nation. He's built a McDonald's. This is kind of older. And then he's built a lot of new skyscrapers in the recent days. So we have 3 new skyscrapers in the city. We have an aircraft carrier, the TNS Fox, and another carrier, the TNS Oroki, which is out here in the ocean. Here's the TNS Oroki. And there is a giant highway. This is also pretty new. This is a new highway that links the Hustler Hills, as well as the village of Overland, which is eventually going to grow into a city probably, but it's mainly just like an outpost at the moment. We've done some renovations in this part of the town. This is kind of like the shopping district. I've built a new vinyl store right here. A new vinyl store in the making. And there's also a Walmart across the street. These tunnels were also built by Tempest the First. There's a new hiking trail. This hiking trail goes all the way through the newly built, because I terraformed a lot of this along the river, but we've rerouted the river as well because now the canal has been upgraded and kind of goes along this stone brick pathway. But the walking trail, it's pretty nice. I actually like this walking trail quite a bit. I think I did pretty good with this one. I've been trying to like make it kind of decorative, so we have like this nice little park entrance, I guess you could call it. I don't know. I really like the copper golems. I can kind of show you guys the old walking trail. This is the original walking trail that goes around the nuclear blast site. That was once this was once a birch forest, believe it or not. This whole area was actually a gigantic birch forest. Both of these islands were. Uh, there was a huge birch forest here. It was like birch forest trees for as far as you could see. But this is a nice trail as well. That is the good thing about Terran. It has a lot of walking paths. Now, this is the Tempest 1 Memorial Tower. This was built by Tempest II as a memorial and a replacement for the original tower. This one is much grander and the tallest building in Terran and the fourth largest building in the entire world at the moment. So, a huge building. It took about an hour to build this building. It really didn't take that long. It took longer to build the Capitol building, ironically, because I built a new Capitol building as well. So I'm going to show you guys the Capitol building. There used to be a fountain out here, but this whole area has kind of been pretty quiet for like the longest time. I always planned to build a Capitol building for Terran out in this swampland, but never really got around to it until now. The Capitol grounds, we have it decorated. There is a railroad underneath of this, but I had to build a road on top of it. We have the Terran train stop, and we have a bunch of spruce trees and a lot of these blue orchids that kind of spawned naturally when I was bone mealing, so I spread them around. But yeah, this is kind of a cool little building. I've decided to name it the Oroki building after the current leader of Terran, so I'm going to kind of show you guys the interior. We have this cool little sugarcane garden. We have a bunch of pillars and a throne section in the building. Over here is Tempest Oroki, the current leader of Terran. And we have a bunch of flags of the Hustler Hills and the Terran Republic, as well as these black flags. I kind of feel like maybe that should be like the flag of Overland. It's kind of like a void or something. We'll just have like a blank banner for the flag of Overland for now, I guess. I think over here I'm gonna put like a dining room. I haven't really decided yet, but here's a lot of the lanterns that I have hanging from the ceiling, and in the back I kind of have it decorated a little bit differently. But yeah, that's kind of the history of the city of Terran and a lot of the structures within the building. Hopefully you enjoyed this little video, and maybe I'll do one for COD Kingdom. I haven't decided yet. So if you guys want to see that, tell me in the comments below, and I will see you all for the next one. Peace.